She never imagined that a single phone call could shatter her world completely, yet tonight, the line trembled with a secret that would change everything she thought she knew about love and trust. Emma Dawson sat on the edge of her bed, her fingers brushing against the scattered letters and unopened envelopes around her, each one a fragment of a past she was trying to ignore. The dim light of her desk lamp cast long shadows across the room, turning familiar objects into ghostly shapes that seemed to move in rhythm with the rain tapping against the window. She had spent weeks avoiding this room, this space filled with echoes of memories too painful to confront, but tonight, a quiet insistence pulled her back, an invisible thread she could not resist. The phone on her nightstand vibrated sharply, startling her, and she picked it up with trembling hands, staring at the unknown number blinking on the screen. Her heart pounded in her chest as she pressed the call button, and a voice, fragile and trembling, whispered her name with a weight that made her knees feel weak. "Emma," the voice said, barely audible yet laden with urgency and fear, a tone that made her blood run cold. "Who is this?" she asked, trying to steady her voice, though her pulse raced like a storm inside her. You need to know the truth about David," the voice said. And Emma froze, the world around her narrowing to that single, impossible statement. David. Her mind reeled with disbelief and confusion, her thoughts scattering like leaves in a gale. The man she had loved, trusted, shared countless dreams with, could be hiding something so monumental that it threatened to unravel everything she believed about their life together. "What are you talking about?" she demanded, her voice stronger than she felt, though it trembled beneath the surface. "There's no time." "They're coming," the voice whispered, urgent and fearful, before the line went dead, leaving her alone with the deafening silence of her apartment. The sudden stillness pressed against her ears, suffocating, demanding action, but leaving her paralyzed with questions. Who were coming? What truth was she not meant to know until now? And why tonight? Her mind spun with possibilities, each darker than the last, while the memory of David's warm smile haunted her like a distant sun she could no longer reach. The phone rang again, this time a message notification blinking insistently on the screen, demanding attention she barely had the courage to give. She unlocked it, hands shaking, and read the words that made her stomach drop and her breath catch. "Meet me at the old pier. Midnight. Come alone. Don't trust anyone." Emma's heart pounded, a mixture of fear and inexplicable determination propelling her forward. Even as rational thought screamed to stay hidden, to ignore the summons. The old pier was miles away, dark and abandoned, a place she had avoided since childhood because of its eerie silence and the stories whispered among neighbors about its past. Yet some force, a strange mixture of fear, love, and curiosity, pushed her toward the unknown, urging her to uncover what had been hidden from her for so long. By 11:50 p.m., she drove through rain-soaked streets, the windshield wipers struggling against the relentless downpour, each movement of the car echoing the rapid beat of her heart. Streetlights flickered as shadows stretched across the wet asphalt, creating shapes that seemed alive, like watchful eyes observing her journey into uncertainty. Her thoughts raced, imagining every possible scenario, none of them comforting, and each possibility seemed worse than the one before. Finally, the pier emerged from the darkness, slick with rain and shimmering under the cold glow of the moonlight, a silent sentinel waiting at the edge of the world. She parked at a distance, the tires splashing through shallow puddles, and approached cautiously, each step resonating on the old wooden planks, echoing in the foggy night. Mist rose from the water, curling around her like ghostly fingers, as if the night itself was warning her back, yet she could not retreat. "Emma," the voice called again, soft and fragile, and she spun, searching the fog, her heart catching in her throat at the sight of a figure emerging from the mist. A man, tall and thin, his coat soaked, held a small envelope in his hand and extended it toward her without a word, his eyes unreadable in the pale moonlight. "Who are you?" Emma demanded, her voice firm despite the tremor that threatened to betray her fear. He handed her the envelope and stepped back into the fog, disappearing as mysteriously as he had appeared, leaving her alone with the unknown weight in her hands. Emma hesitated, fingers brushing the damp paper, debating whether to throw it away or embrace the truth she was both terrified and desperate to know. Curiosity, stronger than fear, won, and she opened it carefully, revealing a single photograph and a folded note, each item carrying a power that froze her in place. The photograph was of David smiling warmly, holding a little girl she had never seen, a child she had no knowledge of, yet the resemblance was undeniable. The note read simply, "He lied. She is your daughter. Find her before it's too late." Emma staggered back, the photograph slipping from her fingers and landing in a puddle, water soaking the image of the child she had never known, the weight of the revelation threatening to crush her. Her mind spun, disbelief clashing with a raw, aching sense of betrayal and urgency, as she tried to reconcile the man she loved with the father he had concealed from her. Tears streamed down her face, mixing with the rain, as she sank to the pier's edge, the cold wood pressing against her palms, the world collapsing around her in that single, unbearable moment. How could David hide something so profound, a life entwined with hers, a daughter she had never known existed? And why now, when every certainty she had clung to was slipping through her fingers? The storm raged outside, the rain drumming against the pier like a frantic heartbeat, echoing the turmoil that surged within her, as if the night itself mourned the secrets that had been kept from her. Emma took a deep breath, clinging to the photograph, a lifeline in a sea of confusion, and realized that her life had changed irrevocably, the path ahead uncertain, dangerous, and filled with questions she could no longer ignore. She knew she had to act, to uncover the truth David had hidden, to find the daughter she never knew, and to face the consequences of a love that had been built on lies and shadows. With determination hardening in her chest, she stood, drenched but resolute, slipping the photograph into her coat pocket, a tangible reminder of her mission, her loss, and her hope. The past was no longer a distant memory. It had caught up to her, demanding she face it. And as she turned toward her car, the shadows around her seemed to whisper in the wind, "The truth will find you, even if it breaks your heart." The drive back from the pier felt longer than it should have, as if the rain and darkness were conspiring to trap Emma in a world where nothing made sense, and every familiar place had been tainted by secrets. Her hands gripped the steering wheel tightly, knuckles white, while her mind replayed the image of the photograph and the words on the note, each repetition hammering at her chest with relentless force. She had loved David with everything she was, trusting him in ways she had never trusted anyone. Yet now that trust lay shattered at her feet like broken glass, sharp and unforgiving. Every streetlight that flickered over the wet asphalt seemed to mock her, casting fleeting shadows that whispered lies and half-truths she was too afraid to confront. Emma's thoughts drifted back to the early days of their relationship, the stolen glances, the late-night talks, the promises whispered in the dark, and she couldn't believe how a life built on such tenderness could harbor such a profound deception. Her fingers trembled as she turned into her apartment complex driveway, and for a moment, she considered leaving, running anywhere but here, away from the walls that had witnessed her love and ignorance. But somewhere deep inside, a stubborn spark refused to die, insisting that she confront the truth, no matter how painful or terrifying it might be. She parked the car and sat for a long moment, staring at the rain sliding down the windshield, realizing that this was just the beginning, that the night had opened a door she could never close again. Inside the apartment, the silence greeted her like an old enemy, familiar yet threatening, each corner heavy with memories she now viewed with suspicion. Emma placed the photograph carefully on the kitchen counter, her eyes lingering on the little girl's face, innocent and unaware of the chaos surrounding her, and a pang of grief and longing twisted inside her. She had always imagined motherhood as a future she might one day embrace, filled with laughter and warmth, yet now the reality of a daughter she never knew existed was thrust upon her like a storm she could not escape. Her phone buzzed again, startling her, and this time it was a text from an unknown number. "They know you have the photo. Do not go home. Meet me at the train station. Hurry!" Emma's breath hitched, panic rising, but so did determination, a fiery pulse that refused to let fear paralyze her completely. Who were they? The message didn't say, but the threat was clear, the urgency unmistakable, and the danger real. She grabbed her coat, stuffed the photograph into an inner pocket, and slipped out into the rain-soaked streets, each step echoing on the pavement, mingling with the sound of distant thunder. The train station was a half-hour drive, each turn of the car's tires against wet asphalt amplifying the pounding of her heart, each passing street lamp casting fleeting shadows that seemed to follow her every move. When she arrived, the platform was deserted, fog rolling in from the tracks like ghostly fingers reaching for her, and the cold air bit into her soaked hair and chilled her skin. A figure emerged from the mist, the same tall man from the pier, his coat clinging to his frame, his eyes dark with worry and something she couldn't name, a mixture of fear and resolve. "You shouldn't be here," he said, his voice low, urgent, yet not unkind, and Emma noticed the way his hands trembled slightly as he extended a small envelope toward her once again. "I need answers," Emma said firmly, trying to mask the quiver in her voice. "Who are they? Why is my life suddenly a nightmare I never asked for?" He hesitated, scanning the empty station, before finally handing her the envelope, his eyes locking onto hers with a silent plea that she would be careful. "The truth is worse than you can imagine," he said quietly. "David is not the man you think he is, and the people looking for that photograph, they will stop at nothing to keep their secrets hidden." Emma's stomach twisted, a mixture of dread and anger as she tore open the envelope, revealing a set of photographs, documents, and a small key, each item carrying the weight of betrayal and danger. The first photograph showed David with a group of people she had never met, some of them wearing suits, others in shadows, their faces grim and calculating, as if plotting something that could destroy lives. Another photo showed the little girl, her eyes wide and fearful, held by a woman Emma didn't recognize. Yet the resemblance to David was undeniable, and a protective instinct surged through Emma like wildfire. The documents were equally damning: bank statements, flight records, and letters that hinted at a hidden life David had kept from her, a life she had unknowingly been excluded from. A web of lies that spanned years. Emma's hands shook as she sifted through the papers, the key cold against her palm, and a single thought pierced her mind with relentless clarity. "I must find her before it's too late." Who is she with?" Emma asked, barely able to form the words, her voice thick with emotion. "They've hidden her for a reason," the man said, eyes dark with urgency. "If you're not careful, they'll use her against you. David. He loved you, maybe, but he's in too deep to protect her properly. You have to be smarter, faster, and more fearless than anyone expects." Emma's chest tightened as her resolve solidified. Fear could not dictate her actions, not when a child's life and her own sense of truth was on the line. She tucked the key into her coat pocket beside the photograph and documents, a tangible link to the unknown, a promise that she would uncover the hidden layers of this twisted reality. The man stepped back into the mist, fading like a shadow, leaving Emma alone on the platform, the train tracks stretching into darkness, a symbol of the uncertain journey ahead. She glanced at her watch. Midnight had passed, and realized she had no time to waste. No moment to second-guess herself, only the urgent necessity to follow the trail David had hidden, to confront a past that was now her present. Emma's mind raced with strategies, every instinct honed by the adrenaline coursing through her veins, as she considered allies, enemies, and the deadly game she had been thrust into unwillingly. The wind whipped around her, carrying whispers of secrets and warnings, as if the night itself was aware of the danger she faced and the courage she would need to summon. Her eyes caught the fog rolling over the tracks, hiding the shadows of the unseen watchers, and she realized that her every move was being observed, every decision critical, and any mistake could cost her more than just comfort or peace. It could cost a life. With a deep breath, she stepped forward, the photograph and key pressed close to her heart, and began walking along the edge of the platform, toward the unknown, toward a confrontation that promised revelation, heartbreak, and the possibility of redemption. Her mind refused to dwell on what could go wrong. She could only think of what must be done, the little girl waiting for her unknowingly, and the man she had loved, flawed and secretive, whose choices had cast shadows over their lives. Every footstep echoed like a drumbeat in the fog, a rhythm of determination, a declaration to herself that she would not turn back, that she would face the truth, however terrifying, however painful. The train rumbled in the distance, a low growl that mirrored the turmoil in her heart, a signal that time was running out, and that the night would demand sacrifices she had never imagined she could endure. Emma paused, letting the mist curl around her, shivering yet unbroken, knowing that this was only the beginning, the first step into a labyrinth of lies, love, and danger, from which there would be no easy escape. She clutched the photograph and key tighter, whispering under her breath a promise to herself and to the child she had never met. "I will find you, no matter what it takes, and nothing will stop me from bringing you home." Emma moved along the fog-laden platform, her breath forming misty clouds in the cold night air, each step a testament to the resolve that had replaced her fear. The train had arrived quietly, its lights cutting through the haze like a beacon of both hope and uncertainty. But she didn't board. She knew the answers were not on the rails tonight, but somewhere hidden in the city she thought she knew. She glanced around, every shadow a potential threat, every sound amplified in the stillness, and yet there was an unmistakable pull guiding her toward a narrow alleyway at the far end of the station. The man's warning echoed in her mind. "You have to be smarter, faster, and more fearless than anyone expects." Emma drew in a steadying breath and began walking, the envelope and key pressing against her chest, the weight of responsibility heavier than any physical burden she had ever carried. The alley was slick with rain, puddles reflecting the dim glow of distant streetlights, and Emma's footsteps splashed lightly, blending with the rhythm of her racing heartbeat. Halfway through, she noticed something etched on the brick wall, a symbol, small and nearly invisible, a spiral enclosed by two triangles, identical to the one on the note she had found with the photograph. Her pulse quickened. It was the first tangible clue she had, a breadcrumb in a trail deliberately designed to test her persistence and courage. Emma traced the symbol with her fingers, feeling the rough texture of the brick beneath her touch, and realized that this was no random mark. It was a message, left just for her, and only she could understand its significance. From the depths of the alley, a soft scuffing sound made her freeze, her senses heightening as adrenaline sharpened every nerve. Someone was watching, waiting, and she knew it. A voice whispered from the darkness, low and urgent. "Emma, you must be careful. They are closer than you think." She spun toward the voice, heart pounding. But the alley was empty, save for the flickering shadows cast by a lone, broken street lamp. Emma's mind raced. Was it a warning from the same man or someone else entirely? Either way, she knew hesitation could cost her dearly. She checked the envelope again, flipping through the documents and photographs for anything she might have missed, and her eyes fell on a small handwritten note tucked between the pages. "The key opens the door to where the truth sleeps. Follow the spirals." Emma swallowed hard, a mixture of fear and determination knotting in her stomach. The metaphor was cryptic, but it was the first lead she had to locate the hidden place where David's secrets, and possibly his daughter, were kept. She followed the alley to its end, where it opened onto a deserted street lined with shuttered shops, and noticed the spirals again, faint marks carved into the metal doors of several buildings, guiding her like a subtle trail only she could recognize. Each mark brought a sense of foreboding, as though the city itself was conspiring against her, yet she pressed forward, trusting her instincts and the urgency that had replaced doubt. The rain intensified, drumming against her coat and hat, soaking her hair and chilling her to the bone, but Emma barely noticed. Her focus was absolute, every step purposeful, every decision a test of courage. At the corner of the street, a small, unassuming door stood slightly ajar. A spiral etched into the wood that matched the symbol from the alley, and Emma realized with a jolt that this was the entrance she had been searching for. She hesitated for only a moment, letting the cold air fill her lungs, and then pushed the door open, the hinges creaking softly, revealing a dimly lit stairwell descending into shadows. The scent of damp earth and old wood filled her nostrils as she stepped inside, each footfall echoing in the confined space, the spiral marks etched along the walls guiding her deeper into the unknown. Halfway down, she paused, listening intently, and heard faint whispers that seemed to drift through the walls themselves, voices she could not yet recognize, some angry, some frightened, all urgent. Emma clutched the key in her hand, its cold metal a tangible connection to the mystery that had upended her life, and she turned it over thoughtfully, wondering what lock it could possibly fit in a place like this. At the bottom of the stairs, a small room opened before her, lit only by a single dangling bulb that cast long shadows, and in the center was a locked cabinet, ornate and old, the keyhole perfectly matched to the one she carried. Her hands shook as she inserted the key, turning it slowly, the click resonating like a gunshot in the silent room. And as the cabinet door creaked open, a flood of old documents, photographs, and a small, velvet-lined box revealed itself. Emma reached for the box, her fingers brushing over the smooth surface, and inside lay a locket, the tiny photograph of a little girl inside confirming what she had feared and hoped at once. This was David's daughter. Tears sprang to her eyes, a mix of grief, relief, and overwhelming love she had never known could exist for someone she had never met. And she felt a strange sense of connection, as if the child's presence reached through time and distance to touch her soul. She heard footsteps behind her, sudden and deliberate, and spun around, heart leaping, to see a figure emerging from the shadows. A woman, tall and angular, eyes sharp with suspicion and recognition. "You shouldn't be here," the woman said, voice low but commanding. "Do you have any idea what you're meddling with?" Emma squared her shoulders, holding the locket close, defiance mingling with fear. "I know enough to want the truth. I know enough to protect her, and I will not leave until I do." The woman's expression softened for a split second, revealing a flicker of vulnerability, before hardening again into resolve. "You don't understand, child. If you take her from us, you will unleash consequences you cannot imagine." Emma's mind raced, piecing together what little she knew, realizing that the network keeping David's daughter hidden was far more dangerous and intricate than she had ever imagined, and yet her conviction only strengthened. "I don't care about the danger," she said firmly. "She's my responsibility now, whether you approve or not. I will find a way to protect her, and I will uncover every secret you've hidden." The woman studied her for a long moment, weighing her determination against the threat Emma posed, and then nodded ever so slightly. A silent acknowledgement that perhaps the girl's fate was no longer solely in their control. Emma took a deep breath, opening the locket again, letting the image of the little girl anchor her, and felt a surge of courage she hadn't known she possessed. The journey had only just begun, but she would face every shadow, every threat, every painful revelation for the sake of that innocent life. As she left the stairwell, stepping back into the rain-soaked street, she knew the night had changed her forever. The quest for truth had begun, and with it, a confrontation with love, betrayal, and the darkness lurking in the heart of someone she once trusted. Every step away from the building felt heavier, yet somehow freer, as if the burden of ignorance had been lifted and replaced with a responsibility that demanded courage, cunning, and relentless persistence. Emma walked into the misty city, the locket tucked safely against her chest, her mind already racing with plans, questions, and strategies, aware that the shadows watching her would not rest, and that the night's revelations were only the first of many battles to come. The rain fell harder, washing the streets clean, yet the weight of secrets remained, pressing on her shoulders, reminding her that the path forward would be treacherous, painful, and heartbreaking, but also illuminated by the possibility of redemption and the chance to rescue a child who deserved a life free from lies. Emma's footsteps echoed through the narrow streets, rain soaking her hair and coat, but she barely noticed. Her mind was consumed with the locket and the weight of the child's life now resting in her hands. Every shadow seemed alive, every corner a potential trap. Yet she pressed forward, guided by the spirals that had led her to the hidden cabinet, determined to uncover more of the truth before the dawn. She ducked into a small cafe, empty at this hour, the warm light and aroma of coffee a stark contrast to the cold and damp of the night outside, and took a moment to gather her thoughts. Her fingers traced the locket again, the tiny photograph of the girl inside a constant reminder of why she could not falter, why she had to navigate this maze of secrets with precision and courage. Emma spread out the documents from the cabinet on the table, scanning each photograph, note, and folder for patterns, for anything that could reveal the child's whereabouts beyond the clues she already had. One photo caught her eye, a young woman holding the little girl, smiling. But her eyes carried a weight, a fear that Emma recognized as the burden of knowing too much and trusting too few. Emma's mind raced as she compared the handwriting on the note to the other documents, realizing that the same hand had left instructions and warnings throughout, a trail laid out by someone who had known the child's importance all along. The cafe's door opened suddenly and a bell jingled, startling Emma, but she kept her composure, pretending to be absorbed in her work as a man entered, shaking off rain from his coat. He glanced around, eyes lingering on her for just a fraction too long, and Emma felt a familiar unease. This city seemed alive with watchers, and she knew she was never truly alone. The man approached, lowering his voice. "You shouldn't be here. They're watching, always watching, and they won't hesitate if they sense you're close to the truth." Emma met his gaze steadily, hiding the surge of adrenaline behind a calm exterior. "Then why are you here? Are you trying to help or hinder me?" He studied her for a moment, then leaned closer. "Call me Marcus. I've been tracking them for years. I know who you're after and I know the risks. If you're determined to proceed, you'll need more than courage. You'll need strategy, allies, and nerves of steel." Emma nodded, absorbing every word. "Then tell me everything." "I don't have time to waste." Marcus sat down opposite her, glancing around the empty cafe before beginning. "The network keeping David's daughter hidden isn't just local. It's international, organized, and ruthless. They have eyes and ears everywhere, and their loyalty is bought, sold, and enforced through fear." Emma's heart sank, but her determination hardened. "Then we need to be smarter, faster. I will find her and I will protect her, no matter what it takes." Marcus nodded slowly, impressed by her resolve. "There's a warehouse on the edge of the city. It's heavily guarded, but it holds information you need. Maps, schedules, and the identities of the people responsible for moving the child. You have to be careful. One wrong move and they'll vanish again, possibly forever." Emma's mind whirled, the pieces beginning to align, yet she felt the weight of every decision pressing down on her, knowing that each step forward brought her closer to danger. She reached for the documents again, comparing the photographs and notes to Marcus's instructions, trying to map a plan in her mind, a strategy that would give her a chance to retrieve the child without being caught. A memory surfaced suddenly, David's last words to her before he disappeared, a warning she hadn't fully understood until now. "Trust no one completely, and follow the signs. Only you can save her." Emma realized the truth in his words. Trust was a luxury she could not afford, yet Marcus seemed genuine, his knowledge a rare lifeline in the sea of shadows surrounding her. She took a deep breath, feeling the adrenaline mix with a profound sense of responsibility, knowing that every move she made would ripple through the lives of those she sought to protect. Outside the cafe, the rain continued, a relentless drumbeat against the windows, as if the city itself was urging her forward, reminding her that time was not on her side. Emma and Marcus left the cafe, slipping into the misty streets, moving with a purpose that balanced caution with urgency, each step calculated, each glance over the shoulder a reminder of the ever-present danger. They reached the edge of the city, where abandoned factories and warehouses loomed like silent sentinels. The spiral symbols etched subtly into doorframes and walls, guiding them as they approached the building Marcus had mentioned. The warehouse was massive, dark, and silent, but Emma could feel the hum of activity inside, the whispers of people moving unseen, planning unseen, guarding secrets that had been kept for too long. Marcus handed her a small flashlight and a folded note with instructions. "This will get you inside without being seen. Once you're in, look for the office on the second floor. That's where the maps and files are kept. Memorize everything. We can't afford to carry physical evidence out." Emma nodded, steeling herself. "And if we're discovered?" Marcus's eyes hardened. "Then you run, survive, we regroup. The mission doesn't end until she's safe." Emma approached the warehouse door. The spiral carved into the metal glinting faintly in the dim light, her fingers tracing the symbol as if drawing strength from it. She slipped inside, moving with the silence of a shadow, every creak of the floorboards and rustle of paper magnified in her senses, aware that the smallest mistake could end everything. The office was on the second floor, exactly as Marcus had said, and Emma found it guarded by a single door with a complex lock that would have daunted anyone else. But she had the skills, the key instinct, and the urgency to bypass it. Inside, she found the maps, schedules, and lists of names, each document revealing more about the network and the locations where the child had been moved in the past weeks. Her heart raced as she pieced together the timeline, realizing that the next move would be dangerous but decisive. She had to act quickly before the child was taken out of reach again. A sudden sound behind her, a floorboard creaking, made her freeze, and she held her breath, listening as heavy footsteps approached, each step a countdown to confrontation. Emma slipped into the shadows, clutching the documents, every muscle tense, ready to confront whoever was coming, knowing that this moment could define the entire mission. The footsteps paused, then retreated, leaving a tense silence that seemed to echo through the empty warehouse, and Emma exhaled slowly, relief mingled with renewed determination. She memorized every detail of the maps, committing names and schedules to memory, then slipped out through a side door she had noted on the way in, returning to the rainy streets with a renewed sense of purpose and urgency. Marcus was waiting, watching her return with an expression that mixed hope and concern. "Well?" Emma met his gaze, her eyes fierce. "We know where she is, and we know the timing. Now we plan how to get her out, and we do it without being caught." The rain fell harder, drenching them both, yet in that moment, Emma felt a spark of hope, a sense that even in the darkness, there was a path to light, and that no matter the cost, she would not fail the child who had unknowingly become the center of her world. The shadows of the past had revealed themselves. But Emma knew that the most dangerous part of the journey, the confrontation with those who would harm the child, was still ahead, waiting in the dark corners of the city that held secrets, lies, and the fragile hope of rescue. Emma and Marcus moved through the drenched streets with caution, their footsteps muffled by puddles and the soft hiss of rain, each of them acutely aware that any misstep could alert the network to their presence. The city seemed alive with whispers that only they could hear, the streetlights casting distorted shadows that danced like phantom guards watching their every move. Emma clutched the documents tightly, feeling the weight of the child's life pressing against her chest, knowing that the next few hours could determine whether she succeeded or failed. Marcus glanced at her, his expression unreadable in the dim light. "We have to be ready for anything. They won't hesitate to disappear her if they suspect we're close." Emma nodded, her jaw set. "Then we go in prepared, knowing the risks, and we come out with her no matter what." They reached a narrow alley that led to the outskirts of the city, the buildings closing in around them like walls of a cage, and Emma felt the tension coil in her stomach, the anticipation of confrontation rising with every step. Marcus signaled her to stop, pointing to faint footprints leading off the alley. "They've been here recently. Be ready. They know someone is tracking them." Emma followed his gaze, spotting signs of hurried movement, scuffed dirt, broken twigs, and a discarded glove that confirmed they were not alone, and her pulse quickened. The alley opened to a small industrial zone, warehouses stretching like silent fortresses, and Emma could feel the danger thickening with the mist that clung to the walls. Marcus crouched behind a stack of crates, pulling out a pair of binoculars. There's a patrol inside the main warehouse. 2 guards at the entrance, another inside near the office. Timing will be critical. Emma studied the building, memorizing the layout, the guard patterns, and the shadows, every detail crucial to avoid detection and ensure the child's safety. A sudden noise, a metallic clang from behind, made Emma spin, heart racing, and she spotted a stray cat darting between containers. But the scare left her on high alert, ready for anything. Marcus whispered, "We go in at the next shift change. That gives us a 4-minute window. Any hesitation could mean failure." Emma took a deep breath, centering herself. "I can do this. I have to do this. There's no other choice." They approached the warehouse, moving with the precision of shadows, avoiding puddles that could betray their presence with a splash. Every step calculated, every movement deliberate. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of oil and machinery, the faint hum of generators masking any minor noises they made as they slipped through side doors Marcus had scouted earlier. Emma's heart pounded as they ascended a narrow staircase, leading to the second floor where the child had been hidden, each step a countdown, each creak of wood a threat to their mission. The office door loomed ahead, guarded by a young man with a cigarette dangling from his lips, unaware of the eyes watching him from the shadows above. Marcus nodded to Emma, and she moved like a shadow, descending silently behind the guard, her hand steady as she disarmed him with a swift, practiced motion, ensuring he could not raise an alarm. They entered the office, and Emma's eyes immediately found the small room in the corner where the child had been kept, her tiny figure curled on a blanket, frightened but unharmed. The girl's eyes widened as Emma knelt beside her. "It's okay. I'm here to take you home. You're safe now." Tears welled in Emma's eyes as the child clung to her, and she felt the weight of all the danger, all the fear, wash away in a flood of relief and hope. Marcus moved to secure the office, ensuring no guards would discover them while Emma prepared the child for escape, whispering reassuring words, soothing the trembling frame in her arms. The first alarm came as they moved toward the back exit. A guard returning earlier than expected had spotted them, but Marcus reacted swiftly, drawing him away with the distraction while Emma carried the child through a hidden passage Marcus had noted. The passage was narrow and suffocating, lined with pipes and old machinery, but it led them directly to a service exit, the outside world just steps away, and Emma felt hope surge in her chest. Rain greeted them again, cold and relentless, but it was freedom, and Emma held the child close, whispering promises she intended to keep, every word a vow of protection. Footsteps approached from the main building, shouts echoing in the distance, and Marcus covered their escape, using the shadows and the storm as cover, while guiding them toward a safe house he had prepared. Emma's muscles ached, her lungs burned from running, but the child's safety propelled her forward, every stride fueled by determination and the fierce will to survive. They reached the safe house, an unassuming apartment on the edge of the city, and Marcus ushered them inside, locking the door behind them, the sound echoing like a barrier between safety and danger. Emma set the child down gently, checking for injuries and found none, the girl's eyes wide but trusting, and for the first time that night, Emma allowed herself a moment to breathe. Marcus leaned against the wall, exhaustion etched into his features. "We did it. But they'll be looking for her. We can't stay here long." Emma nodded, her mind already racing. "We plan the next move carefully. No mistakes, no hesitations. She's too important to lose again." The child clung to Emma and she whispered, "You're safe now. I promise. Nothing will hurt you." The storm outside mirrored the storm they had just endured, rain hammering the roof and windows. But inside there was a fragile calm, a brief respite that allowed them to gather strength for the battles still to come. Emma reviewed the documents, the plans, and the names, realizing that while the immediate danger had passed, the network that had taken the child was still vast, cunning, and relentless. Marcus laid out the next phase. "We have to move quickly. They'll suspect someone is close, and they'll tighten their security." timing, precision, and intelligence will be our only allies. Emma felt the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders, heavier than ever, but also a clarity she had never known, understanding that every choice, every risk, every heartbeat mattered. As dawn approached, the storm began to ease, leaving the city slick and shimmering in the first light. A new day that promised hope, danger, and the unyielding drive to protect the child at all costs. Emma looked at the girl, saw the fragile trust in her eyes, and made a silent vow. She would not fail. She would not falter, and no darkness could overcome the bond forming between them, a bond that would carry them through whatever came next. Outside, the city was waking, unaware of the life and death struggle that had taken place in its shadows. And Emma knew that the true challenge was just beginning, that the network would stop at nothing, and that courage, cunning, and love would be her weapons. She straightened, took a deep breath, and whispered to herself, "We move forward, and we win, no matter the cost." Emma and Marcus didn't waste a moment as they prepared to leave the safe house, knowing that staying even an extra hour could spell disaster. The network relentless and omnipresent, always watching, always waiting. The child clung tightly to Emma's hand, her small fingers entwined with Emma's, and in that grip, Emma felt the gravity of the responsibility she carried, heavier than any weapon or shield. Marcus packed their supplies quickly, maps, communication devices, and the critical documents that contained the network's secrets, every item essential for the next phase of their escape and protection plan. As they stepped into the cold morning air, Emma glanced back at the safe house, now just a silhouette against the rising sun, and she knew that nothing would ever be the same again. Their route took them through deserted streets, debris scattered from the storm, puddles reflecting the faint glow of streetlights, and every shadow seemed alive, every sound amplified in the crisp morning. Emma kept her senses sharp, scanning the buildings and alleyways for signs of pursuit, the tension coiling in her chest like a spring ready to snap at any moment. Marcus led the way with careful precision, whispering instructions. "We stay in motion. No stopping unless absolutely necessary. They'll track patterns and we can't give them a trace to follow," the child whispered, voice small but urgent. "Are we really safe now?" Emma bent down, looking directly into the girl's wide, innocent eyes. "We're getting there. We'll keep moving, and I promise you, we won't let them take you again." They reached an abandoned subway station that Marcus had scouted as a temporary route for escape. The tunnels dark and echoing, the silence broken only by the distant drip of water. Emma's pulse quickened as they descended the stairs, each step a reminder that the danger was never far, that the network's reach could extend into even the most hidden places. The child clung to Emma, trembling slightly, and Emma whispered reassurances, feeling a deep surge of protectiveness, a fierce determination that left no room for doubt. The tunnels seemed endless, twisting and turning, and Marcus led them with a map etched into memory, avoiding maintenance areas and access points that might betray them. At one point, they paused behind a rusted metal door as voices echoed faintly in the distance, guards likely checking the surface streets for signs of movement, and Emma held her breath, counting slowly to steady her nerves. The voices faded, leaving only the distant hum of the subway system, and Emma exhaled slowly, feeling the tightness in her chest begin to loosen ever so slightly. Marcus motioned for them to continue, and they moved deeper into the tunnels, navigating a labyrinth that felt like the underbelly of the city itself, shadows stretching and warping in the flicker of their small flashlights. Emma's thoughts drifted for a moment, remembering the first night they had embarked on this mission, the fear, the uncertainty, the overwhelming sense of helplessness, and she realized how far they had come, yet how far they still had to go. They reached a junction where the tunnels split into multiple paths, and Marcus consulted the map once more, calculating distances, potential exits, and areas of risk, each decision carrying the weight of the child's life. Emma watched him, admiration and trust filling her, knowing that without Marcus's knowledge and skill, they would have been lost long ago, swallowed by the city and the network's relentless pursuit. A sudden sound, A metallic scrape along the wall made them both freeze, hearts hammering, eyes scanning the darkness for any sign of threat, the tension electric in the confined space. Marcus signaled for silence, holding his hand up, and they waited, breaths shallow, listening as the sound moved past them and faded, leaving only the echo of their own racing hearts. Emma felt the child shiver against her, and she hugged her close, whispering, "It's okay." "Nothing will touch us here," they continued, the air growing colder as they moved further underground, and Emma's thoughts returned to the documents they carried, the secrets that could expose the network, the lives at stake beyond the child in her arms. Marcus stopped suddenly, pointing to a faint outline of light ahead, an emergency exit they had not counted on but could use, a shortcut to the surface that could put them miles away from immediate danger. Emma hesitated for a moment, scanning the surroundings, weighing the risks, and then nodded. "We take it. Fast and quiet. No mistakes." As they approached the exit, the faint sounds of the city above reached them, distant sirens and morning traffic, a reminder that life continued unaware of the chaos beneath. They reached the door, but it was locked with a heavy padlock, rusted but secure, and Emma felt the panic rise, the seconds ticking like a countdown to disaster. Marcus knelt beside her, producing tools from his pack, working with steady hands, every second a gamble against time and the network's ever-watchful eyes. The padlock finally gave way, falling with a metallic clatter, and Emma held her breath as they pushed the door open, revealing the stairwell to the outside world, light spilling in like a promise of freedom. The child gasped at the sudden brightness, shielding her eyes, and Emma laughed softly, a sound of relief and hope, the first in hours that felt untainted by fear. They ascended quickly, each step carrying them closer to safety, the sounds of the city growing louder, a symphony of ordinary life that contrasted sharply with their extraordinary ordeal. Emerging onto the streets, they were momentarily blinded by the sunlight, but Emma's focus never wavered, scanning the area for signs of pursuit, every instinct alert. Marcus guided them down side streets, avoiding main roads, and Emma marveled at the surreal beauty of the city bathed in morning light, knowing it was the same city that had witnessed darkness, yet now offering them a chance at escape. The child smiled timidly, holding Emma's hand tightly, and Emma felt a deep warmth, a fragile but powerful bond that had grown from fear into trust, and from trust into hope. They reached a small park where Marcus had arranged a temporary vehicle, a nondescript van waiting under a tree, and they hurried toward it, the promise of mobility and safety just steps away. Marcus opened the doors, helping them inside, and Emma settled with the child in her lap, brushing damp hair from her face, whispering, "Almost there. We're almost free." As the engine started, Emma looked at Marcus, gratitude and determination mingling in her eyes. "We've survived this far, but I know it's not over." Marcus nodded, eyes focused on the road ahead. "It's only the beginning. The network will regroup, but so will we, and we'll be ready for them." Emma held the child close, feeling the steady beat of her tiny heart, and for a moment, allowed herself to imagine a future where fear no longer ruled, where they could all breathe freely without looking over their shoulders. The van rolled away from the city, leaving the underground labyrinth behind, the morning sun rising higher, casting long shadows and a glimmer of hope, and Emma knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they had survived the first battle, and the fight for the child's freedom was far from over. Her voice was soft but firm as she whispered to the child, "You are safe with us. No one will take you again? I promise." The van rumbled over uneven roads, Marcus keeping a steady hand on the wheel, eyes sharp and alert, every corner and alley scanned for signs of the network's relentless pursuit. Emma held the child close, feeling her small body tremble slightly, and whispered again, "We're almost there, just a little longer and you'll see freedom." The child's eyes were wide, staring out the window at the blur of streets and buildings, the city looking both familiar and alien after hours of hiding underground. Marcus adjusted the route, avoiding main highways, cutting through narrow, back streets. and Emma could sense the tension radiating from him, the stress of knowing that any mistake could be fatal. Every shadow that passed the van seemed like a threat, every distant honk or shout setting Emma's heart racing, the city alive yet somehow conspiring to remind them of danger. They passed a crowded market, people moving obliviously, and Emma felt a pang of longing, a sense of normal life they had been denied. Yet she kept her gaze forward, unwilling to let distraction compromise their safety. Marcus spoke quietly. "They won't give up. They're tracking patterns, anticipating moves, and they will escalate if they think they're close to us." Emma nodded, her mind racing with strategies, escape routes, and contingencies, realizing that their survival depended not only on speed, but on foresight, anticipation, and constant vigilance. The child stirred in Emma's lap, soft whimpers escaping, and Emma kissed the top of her head. "I know it's hard, but you're strong. Stronger than you know, and we're going to protect you no matter what." Marcus slowed the van briefly, to take a sharp turn down an alleyway, avoiding what he suspected was surveillance, the tires scraping over loose gravel, and Emma felt a shiver of adrenaline run through her. They moved in silence for a few minutes, the city sounds fading into the background, replaced by the rhythmic hum of the engine and the faint creak of the van's suspension. Emma's mind drifted for a brief moment to the documents they carried. The secrets that could expose the network and the weight of their mission pressed down on her, heavier than ever. A sudden flash of movement outside the window made Emma stiffen, and she leaned closer to Marcus, whispering, "Did you see that?" Marcus's jaw tightened. "Keep calm. Could be nothing. Could be them. Eyes open." Emma tightened her grip on the child, every nerve alert, every sense sharpened to the point of pain. The city now a maze of uncertainty and potential danger. They reached a bridge under construction, a narrow path with limited cover, and Marcus's decision-making was immediate and precise, calculating risks, exits, and visibility in seconds. As the van rolled onto the bridge, a black SUV appeared. In the distance, moving fast, almost too fast, and Emma's heart sank as realization hit. They had been spotted. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel, the veins in his neck prominent. "Hold on. It's going to be tight." The SUV closed in rapidly, engine roaring, and Emma could feel the heat of panic pressing against her chest. The child, whimpering softly, sensing the danger even if she didn't understand its magnitude. Emma whispered into the child's hair, "I need you to be brave. Just hold on to me. We're almost past them." The bridge swayed slightly under the van, loose construction materials clanging in the wind, adding chaos to an already tense situation. Every second stretched into eternity. Marcus maneuvered expertly, taking sharp turns, using narrow scaffolding and construction supports as cover, the SUV struggling to follow, tires skidding dangerously close to the edge. Emma's mind raced, calculating the chances, the what-ifs, and the fact that their pursuers might not hesitate to take lethal action became a reality pressing against her consciousness. The van's engine roared as Marcus accelerated, narrowly avoiding a falling beam, the child's grip tightening around Emma, tears streaming silently down her cheeks. Emma held her close, whispering comfort, feeling the warmth of fear and courage, intertwined, knowing that survival depended on both her strength and the child's fragile resilience. Suddenly, the SUV took a risk, forcing the van toward the bridge railing, scraping metal against metal, sparks flying, and Emma's scream caught in her throat, a mix of fear and instinctive protection. Marcus swerved sharply, tires squealing, the van rocking dangerously, and for a heartbeat, Emma felt certain that they would plunge into the dark waters below, the child lost to the chaos of pursuit. But Marcus's hand steadied, the van catching on a solid beam, and Emma felt the surge of relief tempered by the realization that danger was far from over, the network adapting, relentless, and cunning. They reached the other side, the bridge, behind them echoing with the sounds of their near disaster, and Marcus didn't slow, pushing the van through narrow streets, their path twisting like a labyrinth designed to confuse pursuers. Emma could feel the sweat on her brow, the tension in her shoulders. And yet, a flicker of hope ignited, momentary, fragile, but enough to keep her moving, keep her breathing, keep her fighting. The child whispered, "Are they gone?" And Emma smiled through the tension. "For now, but we stay alert, always alert." Marcus checked rearview mirrors, scanning for shadows, and then nodded. "We've bought a little time, but the network doesn't forget. We need a safe place now." Emma's mind raced, thinking of the people who could help, allies hidden within the city, those who knew how to hide, how to shield, how to survive against an enemy that knew no mercy. They arrived at a seemingly abandoned warehouse, the kind of place that could hide them in plain sight, and Marcus guided the van inside, engines muffled, tires crunching over gravel. Inside, the warehouse was dusty and silent, shafts of sunlight cutting through broken windows, and Emma felt the tension in her shoulders ease just a fraction, enough to breathe, enough to plan the next move. Marcus shut the van doors and whispered, "We wait here for a bit, lay low, then we move. They'll be searching, but we've thrown them off for now." Emma nodded, still holding the child close, and for the first time in hours, allowed herself to feel the weight of exhaustion, the adrenaline leaving her body in shivering waves. The child leaned into Emma, sleepy and terrified, murmuring, "Will they come back?" Emma kissed her forehead, voice steady but soft. "They might. But we are stronger. We will keep you safe. That is our promise, and nothing will break it." As Marcus moved to check the perimeter, Emma's eyes swept the interior of the warehouse, imagining the battles ahead, the threats lurking, and the courage it would take to survive, knowing that the network's reach would never be entirely gone. She held the child, whispering stories of hope, of safety, of a future where fear was a memory, not a constant companion, and for a fleeting moment, the warehouse felt like a sanctuary, fragile but real. Outside, the city continued, unaware of the life and death chase that had just occurred, and Emma understood that the fight was far from over. But so was their determination, unbroken, unyielding, and fiercely protective. The sun climbed higher, illuminating the dust motes in the air, and Emma made a silent vow, no matter the cost, no matter the darkness, they would survive, they would protect, and they would find freedom, even if it meant facing death again and again. Marcus returned, motioning for her to stay close, and Emma knew that the next steps would be just as perilous, the network relentless. But for now, they had a moment, a single moment of safety to breathe, regroup, and prepare for the battles ahead. The warehouse was silent except for the occasional creak of old wood and the distant hum of the city beyond its walls. Yet every shadow seemed to whisper threats, and Emma could feel the tension pressing down like a living weight. Marcus paced, near a broken window, scanning the streets, eyes narrowing as he calculated possible approaches the network might take, and Emma knew they couldn't afford even a moment of carelessness. The child slept fitfully against Emma's chest, soft murmurs escaping, and Emma brushed stray hair from her forehead, whispering comfort, even as her mind spun with strategy, contingency, and worst-case scenarios. Marcus finally sat on a dusty crate, rubbing his face, exhausted yet alert, and said, "We've shaken them off for now, but that doesn't mean we're safe. They'll be back, and next time, they won't be subtle." Emma nodded, swallowing the lump in her throat. "We need allies, safe houses, someone who knows the city better than us. Otherwise, we're just running in circles." Marcus's lips pressed together, tension evident. There are people, but the network has eyes everywhere. We have to be careful who we trust. One wrong move, one misplaced word, and everything we've done could be destroyed. Emma's heart sank at the thought, the weight of responsibility pressing heavily upon her, knowing that protecting the child meant navigating a web of deception, danger, and uncertainty without faltering. Hours passed as they planned, whispered and mapped potential routes, the child occasionally stirring, Emma soothing her, feeling a protective fierceness she had never known before. Then a sudden knock echoed through the warehouse, sharp and deliberate, making both adults freeze, the sound reverberating like a gunshot in the quiet space. Marcus gestured for silence, signaling Emma to stay hidden, and moved cautiously toward the entrance, every muscle taut, ready for confrontation. The knocking came again, slower this time, deliberate, as if the visitor knew exactly what they were doing, testing the patience of those inside. Marcus peeked through a crack in the door, eyes scanning for shapes, and then a familiar figure stepped into view. Someone Emma recognized from a distant past, someone she had once trusted. Her heart skipped a beat, a mix of relief and suspicion. It's Jonah," she whispered, voice trembling. I thought he left the city years ago." Marcus's hand went to his side, ready for action. "Do you trust him?" he asked quietly, eyes never leaving the door. Emma shook her head slightly, uncertainty gnawing at her. "I don't know. But he knows the city, maybe better than anyone. And maybe, just maybe, he can help us." Jonah stepped inside slowly, hands raised, a wary smile on his face. "Emma." "Marcus. I've been following from a distance. I know who's after you. I can help, but we have to move fast. They're closing in." Marcus studied him, tension in every line of his body. "How do we know you're not leading them here? One wrong word, and it's over." Jonah's eyes hardened, a flicker of pain and determination in them. "I've made mistakes in the past. But I'm not here to betray you. I can get us through this, but only if we trust each other, at least enough to act together." Emma exhaled slowly, weighing the risk. "We don't have a choice. Either we accept help, or we keep running blind and hope we survive." Marcus finally nodded, albeit reluctantly. "All right. But one wrong move, Jonah, and I won't hesitate. You understand?" Jonah nodded, grim and serious. "I understand. Now we need to move. There's a safe house across town, hidden, protected. But we can't take the main roads. They'll anticipate our path." Emma helped the child to sit, wrapping her tightly in a blanket. "We're almost there, sweetie. Just a little longer. We'll be safe soon." The child looked up with tired eyes. "Will they hurt us?" Emma kissed her forehead, voice steady. "No one will hurt you. I promise. We're going to keep you safe no matter what." They moved silently, Jonah leading them through alleyways, abandoned tunnels, and back streets, avoiding cameras, patrols, and anyone who might recognize them, the city now a maze of both hope and danger. At one point, a man stepped out from a doorway, demanding identification, and Jonah's quick thinking and knowledge of the neighborhood allowed them to pass, leaving Emma shaken, grateful, and aware of how close they had come to disaster. Hours blurred into each other as they navigated the urban labyrinth, Emma feeling a mix of exhaustion, fear, and determination, knowing that the next few days would be critical for survival. They finally reached the safe house, a nondescript building hidden behind overgrown vines and abandoned warehouses, the entrance secured and guarded from prying eyes. Inside, the atmosphere was tense but protective, the rooms sparse but sufficient, and Marcus immediately began assessing entry points, exits, and potential weaknesses, unwilling to take even a single risk. Emma set the child down on a makeshift bed, brushing hair from her face. "You can rest now. We're going to be okay. We're going to stay together, and we're going to survive." The child's small hands clutched Emma's fingers, eyes heavy but trusting. "I love you," she whispered. Emma's eyes brimmed with tears. "I love you too, more than anything. You're my heart, my reason for fighting." Jonah moved to a corner, spreading maps and digital devices across a table. "We need to plan our next steps. They'll be searching the city, tracing patterns, looking for any clue of our location. We can't stay here long." Marcus nodded, studying the maps. "We'll rotate watches, set traps, and prepare for their arrival. But we need to be ready for betrayal. Someone might have tipped them off and we don't know who." Emma's stomach churned at the thought. The realization that even allies might not be entirely trustworthy, the fear of the unknown pressing on her chest like a stone. Jonah looked at her, voice calm but urgent. Emma, you have to understand. They're watching always. We've survived this long, but we can't relax for even a second. One mistake could undo everything. Emma swallowed, nodding. I understand. I've never felt more aware of danger in my life. But I also know we can't give up. We have to protect her. That's the only thing that matters. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder, a silent gesture of solidarity. We will. Together. No matter what comes, we fight as one. The hours passed, plans made, contingencies considered, and the safe house, though temporary, became a fortress of determination, courage, and fragile hope. Emma watched the child sleep, thinking of how much they had endured, how much more they might have to endure, and how love and trust were the only shields strong enough against the darkness that hunted them. Outside, the city moved on, unaware of the shadows gathering, unaware of the lives balanced on the edge of survival, and Emma understood that the real battle was just beginning, a test of courage, loyalty, and heart. As night fell, Marcus and Jonah prepared for the first patrol, the tension in the room palpable, and Emma whispered a prayer, hoping for strength, protection, and the impossible chance of victory against an enemy that seemed invincible. The child stirred again, murmuring in her sleep, and Emma kissed her once more, holding her tightly. No matter what happens, we're together. And together, we can face anything. The night stretched long, filled with silent vigilance, whispered plans, and the ever-present fear of betrayal, and Emma realized that trust, hope, and courage were the only weapons they had against the relentless shadows closing in around them. Somewhere in the dark streets outside, figures moved with purpose, intent on discovery, and Emma knew the battle for survival was far from over, but she also knew that her heart, her will, and her love would never waver, even in the face of unimaginable peril. Dawn broke over the city like a fragile promise, painting the streets with pale gold light, yet the shadows of danger clung stubbornly to every corner, reminding Emma that survival was never guaranteed. Marcus had already begun his rounds, moving silently through the safe house, inspecting every entrance, every possible escape route, his eyes sharp and unblinking, aware that one lapse could cost them everything. Emma stayed near the child, brushing her hair gently, feeling the fragile heartbeat against her chest, and knowing that this small life had become the axis around which her world now revolved. Jonah paced near the maps, speaking softly. We have information that a scout from the network was seen near the docks last night. They're testing the city, probing for our patterns. We can't underestimate them. Emma's stomach tightened. Do they know we're here? She asked, voice almost a whisper. Jonah shook his head. Not yet. But they're close. And when they realize we're moving, they'll act fast. That's why we can't linger. We need to decide our next step before they close in. Marcus joined them, voice low but firm. We have two options. 1, we try to escape the city entirely, which is risky but might give us breathing room. 2, we fortify and strike from the shadows, using the city itself as our weapon. Either path is dangerous, and neither guarantees survival. Emma exhaled slowly, weighing the options. I can't leave her in danger. But hiding forever? That's not living. We need to fight smart, not just run. Jonah nodded. Agreed. But fighting smart requires trust, coordination, and timing. And right now, trust is the rarest commodity we have. Marcus's jaw tightened. Especially when allies might betray us. Every move we make has to be calculated. One wrong step, and they'll have us before we even realize it. Emma glanced at Jonah, uncertainty clouding her eyes. Can we trust him? How do I know he's not leading them here? Jonah met her gaze, calm but firm. Because if I wanted to betray you, I wouldn't be suggesting a move. I'd have done it long ago. But actions speak louder than words. And right now, my actions are aligned with yours. Marcus exhaled, tension slowly easing. All right. Then we plan. First, we secure supplies, safe routes, and contacts who can move undetected. Next, we set traps and diversions. Then, we make our move. Emma felt the weight of every word, the gravity of the situation pressing down. Yet within that pressure, a spark of determination ignited, a fierce desire to protect the child, to survive, to endure. They moved cautiously through the city, navigating alleyways and abandoned buildings, avoiding cameras and patrols, Jonah leading with uncanny precision, the city's hidden pathways becoming their lifeline. At one point, a group of men appeared near a narrow bridge, blocking their route, and Marcus instinctively stepped forward, ready for confrontation. But Jonah held up a hand, signaling patience. Whispering urgently, Jonah guided them through a series of side passages and stairwells, avoiding detection entirely, and Emma felt a mix of awe and fear at his knowledge, aware that their survival depended entirely on his skill and judgment. Hours passed like minutes as they moved, the child occasionally stirring in Emma's arms, murmuring, and Emma whispered soothing words, her own fear held at bay by sheer force of will. They reached a hidden market where trusted contacts provided supplies, food, water, first aid, and information, and Emma marveled at the underground network, realizing that hope and courage often hid in plain sight, shielded by courage and discretion. While preparing, Jonah leaned close to Emma, voice low. "There's someone you should meet. She's helped me before, knows the city inside out, and she can provide safe houses and intelligence. But you have to decide if you're ready to trust her." Emma hesitated, the weight of every betrayal she had faced pressing on her, yet the thought of additional allies, another layer of protection, gave her a spark of hope. "I'm ready. We have to try. There's too much at stake not to." Marcus watched silently, expression unreadable. Trust is fragile. Handle it carefully. One misstep, and it could unravel everything. They moved toward the contact's location, a quiet apartment hidden above a shuttered bakery where a woman named Lila awaited, her eyes sharp, observant, and full of quiet strength. Lila studied Emma and Marcus carefully, her gaze lingering on the child. "So this is the reason you've been running. I've heard whispers, but nothing prepares you for seeing it in person. You have a fierce heart, I'll give you that." Emma swallowed, feeling a mix of exhaustion and pride. "We don't have time for stories. We need information, safe routes, anything that can help us stay ahead." Lila nodded. "Then we'll get to work. But first, understand this. What you're up against is organized, relentless, and willing to do anything. They won't show mercy, and they have eyes everywhere. You have to be smarter than they are." Marcus clenched his fists, determination hardening his features. "We don't plan to lose. Every move we make will count, every decision calculated. We've survived this long. We won't stop now." Emma set the child down carefully, brushing hair from her face. "We need to focus. She's counting on us, and we can't fail. Not now, not ever." Lila laid out a series of maps, routes, and safe houses, each marked with critical details, entrances, exits, and risk zones, and Emma realized that survival was no longer just instinct. It was strategy, planning, and trust in allies. Jonah added intel on the network's movements, their likely checkpoints, and potential ambush sites, weaving together a tapestry of information that gave them the edge, albeit a fragile one. As night fell again, they set watches, prepared contingency plans, and Emma couldn't help but reflect on how far they had come, how much danger they had survived, and how unshakable her resolve had become. She watched Marcus pacing, ever vigilant, and Jonah reviewing routes with Lila, understanding that leadership came in many forms, but courage was universal, shared by all who refused to bow to fear. The child slept peacefully, unaware of the world's peril, and Emma kissed her forehead, whispering a promise. "I will protect you. No one will take you from me. Not them, not anyone." Outside, the city moved in waves of indifference, unaware of the lives on the brink, and Emma realized that courage often flourished in silence, shielded by determination, love, and the will to survive. Hours of preparation culminated in a plan, a precise, dangerous, daring strategy to stay ahead of the network, Avoid detection and strike when least expected, a plan that required every ounce of skill, intuition, and courage they possessed. Emma felt a swell of fear, excitement, and resolve, knowing that the next steps would define their survival, their freedom, and the future of the child she had sworn to protect. Marcus placed a hand on her shoulder, a rare gesture of reassurance. "We've done what we can. Now it's about execution. Trust your instincts, and we'll get through this." Emma nodded, determination burning in her chest. "We'll survive. We have to. For her, for us, for the hope we carry." Night deepened. Shadows stretched across the city, and Emma, Marcus, Jonah, and Lila prepared to move. Every heartbeat a reminder of the fragility of life and the strength that love and trust could create in even the darkest times. As they stepped into the streets, silent and alert, Emma knew that survival was not just about hiding. It was about courage, action, and the willingness to face the impossible with unwavering resolve. Somewhere ahead, danger waited, unseen but inevitable, and yet within her heart, a spark of hope burned brightly, guiding her forward, reminding her that no matter the odds, she would fight, protect, and endure. The city was a labyrinth of danger, its streets twisted and unpredictable, and as Emma led the small group through the alleys, she could feel the weight of every shadow pressing against her, reminding her that survival was fragile, fleeting, and often a matter of luck. Marcus moved beside her, eyes scanning, muscles coiled like a predator, every sound registered in his mind, every movement analyzed, and Emma relied on his vigilance, knowing that his instincts had saved them countless times before. Jonah followed closely, whispering directions. "Left here, then 2 blocks forward. Watch for cameras, they've upgraded surveillance since last week. They know we're active." Emma nodded, gripping the child tightly, feeling the warmth of her small body and the rhythm of her heartbeat, a fragile tether to hope and reason amidst the storm of fear and uncertainty. Lila led the way through a hidden doorway, revealing a narrow staircase that descended into the shadows of an abandoned basement, a secret path few knew, where they could rest and plan without prying eyes. Inside, the air was thick and damp, the faint smell of mildew hanging, but it was safe, or at least safer than the streets above, and Emma felt a moment of relief, brief and fleeting, as she set the child down on a makeshift cot. "We can't stay long," Lila warned, her voice firm, practical. "They'll track anomalies, patrol patterns, and if they suspect movement here, it won't be long before they're at the door. Every second counts." Marcus leaned against the wall, arms crossed, a shadow of doubt in his eyes. "We can't keep running. At some point, we have to strike, make a move that disrupts them, or we'll be trapped in a loop forever." Jonah nodded. Agreed. But disruption requires timing, precision, and most importantly, the right leverage. We can't attack blindly. It'll cost lives. Emma's eyes burned with determination. "We'll figure it out. We have to. Every life here is worth fighting for, and we won't let fear dictate our choices." Lila spread out the maps again, marking surveillance zones, patrol schedules, and potential vulnerabilities. And Emma realized the depth of the challenge. They weren't just fighting men with guns, but an invisible network, coordinated, intelligent, and ruthless. Hours passed as they plotted, debated, and strategized. Each plan weighed against the cost of failure, each decision a gamble with lives hanging in the balance. Suddenly, a soft noise echoed from the stairs, barely audible, yet enough to make Marcus's hand tighten around the hilt of his knife, and Emma's pulse spiked, sensing the instinctual warning that danger was near. "Stay calm," Jonah whispered, moving toward the sound, and the tension in the room became tangible, thick enough to choke on, every heartbeat amplified in the silence. A figure emerged from the shadows, a young man, pale, frightened, hands raised in surrender, eyes wide with panic, and Lila's voice cut through, sharp. "Who are you? How did you find us?" The man stammered, voice trembling. I followed signs. I know this network. I can help. Please, I'm not here to harm you. I have information about their next move." Marcus narrowed his eyes, suspicion radiating from him. "Information is cheap. Why should we trust you?" Emma stepped forward, voice calm but firm. Because we don't have the luxury of ignoring anyone right now. Speak, quickly. Every second counts. The young man swallowed. They're planning something big. They'll hit the central hub tonight, a coordinated strike. If you don't act first, it will be catastrophic. Jonah's eyes narrowed, analyzing, connecting dots in his mind. How do you know this? Are you sure? The man nodded, desperation clear in every gesture. I've been inside, worked with them before. I left because I couldn't stand the cruelty. I've been tracking movements, and you're the only ones who can stop it. Lila glanced at Marcus, and then at Emma. This could be the leverage we need. But betrayal is a real threat. Are you willing to take that risk? Emma's jaw tightened, determination solidifying. Risk is all we have. We survive by taking calculated risks. If he's lying, we deal with it. But if he's telling the truth, we have a chance to strike before it's too late. Jonah and Marcus exchanged silent looks, tension thick, then slowly nodded, the weight of the decision settling over them like a shadow, acknowledging that in their world, trust was dangerous, but hesitation was deadly. The young man, whose name was revealed to be Eli, laid out detailed maps of patrols, surveillance, and the target locations, explaining escape routes and timing with precision, and Emma realized that despite the danger, he could be the key to turning the tide. Hours blurred into the night as they refined the plan, every detail scrutinized, contingencies prepared, and Emma felt exhaustion gnawing at her, yet adrenaline pushed her forward, carrying the weight of responsibility, fear, and determination. Finally, Jonah summarized, "We move at midnight. Marcus and I will create diversions. Lila and Emma will secure the child and the primary safe route. Eli will guide us through hidden passages to avoid detection. Timing is everything. No mistakes." Emma's eyes met Lila's, and there was an unspoken acknowledgement of courage, sacrifice, and unity, each understanding the stakes, each ready to shoulder the burden of survival together. As midnight approached, the city outside pulsed. With life, indifferent to the tiny group plotting in shadows, and Emma's thoughts flickered to the child, her reason for enduring every terror, facing every fear, and choosing action over surrender. Marcus checked weapons, gear, and supplies, meticulous, ritualistic, ensuring every detail was perfect. While Jonah reviewed timing, routes, and contingencies, the air electric with anticipation and tension. Emma held the child close, whispering, reassurance, feeling the tiny fingers clutch hers, and in that moment, clarity struck. Courage was not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it, fueled by love and purpose. The group moved silently, stepping into the labyrinthine streets, shadows their allies, instincts their guides, every heartbeat echoing the rhythm of danger and determination, aware that one misstep could undo everything. As they approached the central hub, Emma's pulse quickened, every sense alert, every nerve taut, and she realized that the culmination of their journey, every fear, every choice, every risk, led to this moment. The brink where courage met destiny. Marcus signaled, and diversions began. Lights flickered, sounds of chaos echoed, drawing attention away, and Jonah guided them through narrow passages, Eli's knowledge proving invaluable, timing precise, movements flawless. Finally, they reached the target location, Emma's heart hammering, the child asleep in her arms, and she understood that the next steps would demand everything, cunning, courage, and unwavering resolve, because failure was not an option and survival required. Both strategy and faith. As they prepared to act, a sudden realization struck. Someone had betrayed them, a shadow moving where it shouldn't be, eyes gleaming with intent, and Emma's breath caught, knowing that the final test was not just the network, but the fragility of trust itself. Marcus whispered, Stay sharp. We've been compromised. Someone's watching us. Emma tightened her grip, every muscle ready, heart racing, and she knew that the night would decide not just their fate, but the fragile hope they carried, and that courage, sacrifice, and trust would be their only shields against the coming storm. The first confrontation erupted like a thunderclap, shadows colliding, whispers of betrayal mingling with the sound of struggle. And Emma felt a surge of raw emotion, fear, fury, love, and determination, all converging into action. Every movement mattered. Every choice could save or doom, and as they fought to survive and protect the child, Emma realized the truth. The darkest nights reveal the brightest courage, and only those who dare act despite fear can shape destiny. The chaos erupted around them like a storm, echoes of shouts and the clash of metal bouncing off walls, and Emma's pulse raced as she navigated through the labyrinthine corridors with the child in her arms. Marcus was ahead, a force of precision and strength, deflecting attacks and guiding the group, his focus unshakable despite the pandemonium, and Emma relied on him to carve the path through danger. Jonah flanked them, eyes darting, analyzing every angle, every shadow, aware that one misstep could trigger catastrophe, and his calm efficiency was the anchor that held their frantic movements together. Eli's knowledge of the passages proved invaluable, leading them through narrow, hidden paths, whispering directions with urgency. Yet every step carried the anxiety that betrayal could strike at any moment. A sharp metallic clang echoed, and Marcus barely dodged a swinging pipe, twisting with agility born of relentless training, and Emma's breath caught as the reality of their vulnerability pressed down on her. "We can't hold them off forever," Marcus shouted, glancing back, sweat and determination etched across his face. "We need to reach the central chamber and shut down the operation." Emma nodded, heart hammering, feeling the child stir in her arms, the small body trembling with fear, and she whispered soothing words, a fragile shield against the terror surrounding them. Lila appeared suddenly from the side passage, face streaked with dirt and blood, eyes fierce. "They've split their forces. 2 groups are following us. We have to move faster." Jonah calculated quickly. "We can create a diversion in the northern corridor. Marcus and I can hold them off long enough for Emma and Lila to reach the control room." Emma hesitated, the weight of responsibility crashing over her. Leaving Marcus and Jonah behind could cost them their lives, yet there was no alternative. If they hoped to stop the attack, and every second counted. Marcus saw her hesitation and nodded, understanding without words. "Go. I'll buy you the time you need. Trust me." Emma swallowed hard, tears threatening to fall. "Be careful. We need you." Marcus managed a grim smile. "We always do what we have to." With that, Emma and Lila sprinted forward, ducking under hanging wires, leaping over debris, the child clutched tightly against Emma's chest, each heartbeat a reminder of what they were fighting for. The northern corridor erupted in controlled chaos as Marcus and Jonah executed their diversion, drawing enemies away with calculated risk. And the sounds of struggle faded behind them as Emma and Lila moved faster than fear itself. Finally, they reached the control room, a steel-reinforced chamber humming with the energy of surveillance systems and weaponry, screens flickering with real-time data, and the sight struck Emma with the enormity of the task. They had to disable everything before the strike began. Lila immediately set to work, fingers flying over keyboards, bypassing security protocols, disabling cameras, and Emma kept watch, scanning for intruders, heart racing with the knowledge that time was their greatest enemy. Minutes felt like hours, every second pregnant with tension, and Emma's mind raced through contingencies, escape routes, and possible betrayals, her body a coiled tension of focus and fear. Suddenly, Eli appeared at the door, breathless. "You're running out of time. They're closing in. I can guide you through an emergency exit, but we have to move now." Emma nodded sharply. "Finish the shutdown. I'll follow you. Lila, make it count. We can't fail." Lila's hands worked frantically, overriding the mainframe, lights flickering as systems powered down one by one, alarms blaring briefly before silence reclaimed the chamber, a fragile victory hanging in the air. Emma felt a rush of relief, fleeting and delicate, because outside the control room, the sounds of pursuit intensified, and she knew Marcus and Jonah were still fighting, their lives on the line to secure hers and the child's. Eli grabbed her hand, pulling her toward a hidden exit, and they moved swiftly through a maintenance tunnel, walls damp, air thick with tension, each step a prayer whispered silently for survival and courage. As they emerged into an abandoned section of the city, Emma paused, looking back toward the central hub, and the devastation was visible. Fires, smoke, shadows of conflict, and yet, she knew they had disrupted the attack, if only just enough. The child stirred, eyes wide, and Emma whispered, "It's okay. We're almost safe. You're safe now." Eli glanced at her, expression serious. "We're not out of danger yet. They'll hunt anyone connected to this operation. We have to disappear." Emma nodded, the weight of exhaustion and relief pressing down on her, yet determination burned brighter than fatigue. Knowing that survival was not the end, it was the beginning of the fight for justice, for protection, and for hope. Suddenly a shadow moved ahead, familiar yet unexpected, and Emma froze, breath caught, heart hammering with suspicion and fear. "Marcus?" she whispered, hope and worry intertwining, and the figure stepped forward, battered, bleeding, but alive, nodding grimly. Emma ran to him, relief flooding her, tears spilling. "You made it!" "I thought—" Marcus cut her off gently. "No time. We've only survived the first wave. Others will come. But we're together. That's what matters now." Jonah appeared next, bruised and exhausted, but unbroken. Diversion worked. "We held them off long enough. They won't know what hit them." Emma embraced them both, the child between them, a fragile symbol of everything they had fought to protect, and for a moment, the weight of fear lifted, replaced by solidarity and the fierce warmth of shared survival. But that moment was fleeting, as distant sirens and the hum of distant engines reminded them. The fight was far from over, and the network they had struck would retaliate, seeking vengeance with cunning and cruelty. Lila joined them, exhaustion evident, but determination undiminished. "We've won a battle, not the war. We have to disappear, regroup, and plan the next move. They'll come after anyone associated with this, and we can't afford mistakes." Emma's gaze fell on the child, then to her friends, warriors of circumstance, bonded by fear, courage, and necessity, and she realized that the greatest victories were not in silence, but in unity, sacrifice, and relentless will. Eli spoke quietly. "I know a place. Remote, hidden, safe for now, but it's temporary. We have to prepare for what's next and make sure they never strike again." Emma nodded, resolve solidifying. "Then we move, together, no one left behind. Every life matters, and we will fight for every one of them." They moved as one through the ruined cityscape, shadows and whispers guiding them, hearts heavy with the cost of survival, yet buoyed by the undeniable strength of courage, trust, and the knowledge that even in the darkest nights, light could emerge through the bonds of loyalty and sacrifice. The city faded behind them, a battlefield and a memory, and Emma understood that the journey ahead would demand more than strength. It would demand unwavering belief, the courage to face betrayal, and the willingness to sacrifice for the lives of others. As dawn approached, painting the skyline with fragile light, the group found temporary refuge, hidden and silent, the city waking unaware of the lives changed and battles fought in its shadows. Emma held the child, Marcus and Jonah nearby, Lila and Eli keeping watch, and for a moment, there was peace, fragile and fleeting, yet enough to remind them why they fought, why courage mattered, and why hope, even in the direst circumstances, was never lost. The war was far from over, but for the first time in days, Emma felt the clarity of purpose, the unity of those willing to face the impossible together, and the unspoken promise that no matter what came next, they would endure, and they would protect those who could not protect themselves. And in that quiet moment, hearts heavy but unbroken, The first true sense of victory, however small, blossomed. A victory not of triumph over enemies, but of survival, love, and the unyielding human spirit. The first rays of sunlight pierced the horizon, scattering golden light across the desolate rooftops, and Emma felt a strange sense of calm, despite the exhaustion that weighed on her every limb. The city behind them was a battlefield of memories, smoke curling upward from the ruins, a testament to chaos, fear, and the courage that had been tested in ways they could hardly imagine. And yet, they had survived. Marcus sat nearby, tending to minor wounds with careful precision, his usual stoicism softened by the relief that none of them had been lost, and the rare quiet allowed him to reflect on how fragile yet resilient life truly was. Jonah scanned the skyline, eyes sharp despite the long night, cataloging the threats that still lingered unseen. Knowing that vigilance was not a choice but a necessity, and that the world beyond these shadows held dangers yet to be faced. Emma held the child close, warmth and life in her arms grounding her, and she realized that what they had endured was more than a physical battle. It was a test of heart, of the courage to stand for others when every instinct screamed to flee. Lila and Eli moved quietly, sharing glances that spoke of trust, shared pain, and the silent agreement that survival meant responsibility, not only to themselves but to everyone who could not fight for their own lives. Emma finally allowed herself a deep breath, letting the crisp morning air fill her lungs, and she whispered softly, "We did it. We're still here. We made it through together." Marcus looked at her, expression thoughtful. Survival isn't the end. It's the beginning of understanding what truly matters. Every life, every bond, every choice shapes the future. The child stirred, small hands clutching Emma's shirt, eyes wide with innocence that had survived the storm, and she realized that hope was not something found in grand victories, but in moments like this, fragile and precious, when life continued despite darkness. Jonah spoke quietly, voice carrying weight. "We've been given a second chance, not just to survive, but to make a difference. We can't let fear dictate our actions. We have to be the light in the shadows." Emma nodded, understanding dawning like the morning itself. That courage was not the absence of fear, but the decision to act in spite of it. And love was not safe but necessary, for it is through love that we protect, endure, and inspire. Lila stepped forward, a slight smile breaking through fatigue. "We've learned that trust and unity can overcome even the most calculated threats. Alone, we falter. Together, we're unstoppable," Eli added. "And the world will continue to test us. But every act of compassion, every choice to protect others, every moment of courage becomes part of something greater than ourselves." Emma looked around at her companions, hearts linked by trials and triumphs, and she realized that the battles they had faced were not only against external forces, but against doubt, fear, and the temptation to give up when the stakes seemed insurmountable. She spoke softly, voice carrying strength born of experience. "This isn't just our story. It's a reminder that in darkness, there is light if we seek it together, that hope can thrive even in chaos, and that the smallest actions, protecting one life, helping one person, can ripple outward in ways we may never see." Marcus nodded, gaze distant yet resolute. "We've been tested. We've seen pain and fear, but we've also seen courage, resilience, and the power of unity. That's the lesson the world needs, now more than ever." Emma's eyes fell on the child again, symbol of innocence preserved, and she felt a surge of determination. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for those who cannot fight. Every choice, every sacrifice matters. That's what gives life its meaning." The sun rose higher, bathing the city in light that chased shadows into corners, and they understood that survival was only the first step toward building something stronger, something enduring, a life defined not by fear but by purpose. Jonah broke the silence, voice calm yet carrying conviction. "We cannot let darkness define us. We must seek ways to create light, to protect, to teach, to inspire. That is how we honor those who struggled and those we protect." Emma smiled, tears brimming but controlled. "And we can start by sharing our story. by reminding others that courage is not heroic because it's easy, but because it chooses love when fear wants us to run. Lila nodded. Exactly. Every person watching, listening, or learning can take a step today, small or large, to make a difference. To protect someone, to stand up, to love fearlessly. Eli glanced at the skyline, winds carrying whispers of a city waking to a new day. This is our chance to create a ripple. One story, one life, one choice can inspire countless others to act with courage, compassion, and integrity. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the lessons pressed into her heart. We survived, yes, but more importantly, we learned that love, unity, and courage are not abstract ideals. They are the tools we wield to protect, to heal, and to change the world. Marcus finally spoke, quiet but firm. And if people take even one lesson from our journey, if they understand that facing fear, standing together, and choosing compassion can shape lives, then every hardship, every sacrifice was worth it. Emma looked directly into the camera of her recording device, meant to document their journey for the world. Voice steady and compelling. To anyone watching this, know this: you are stronger than you realize. You have the power to protect, to love, to stand against darkness, and to make a difference. Every choice matters. Every action matters. She paused, allowing the message to settle, before continuing. Subscribe, follow, and join us in sharing stories that inspire courage and compassion. Together, we can build a world where hope thrives, even in the face of chaos. Lila stepped closer. Every like, every share, every voice adds to the ripple. We invite you to be part of the movement, to choose courage, and to protect what is precious, for yourself and for others. Eli nodded in agreement. This isn't just entertainment. It's a call to action, a reminder that the smallest acts of bravery, love, and unity can ignite a chain reaction that changes lives. Marcus added, remember, survival is not enough. We must thrive, we must inspire, and we must create a legacy worth leaving together. Emma took a final glance at the rising sun, heart full of gratitude, determination, and hope. So start today. Protect, stand, love, inspire. Let courage guide your choices. Let hope be your weapon. And join us as we continue this journey. Together, we are unstoppable. The city around them came alive with sounds of life, yet the memory of the night's trials remained etched in their hearts, a reminder of the fragility of life and the strength that emerges when hearts and hands unite in the face of darkness. As they walked toward an uncertain but hopeful future, the first light of day illuminating their path, Emma understood fully that the real victory was not in survival alone, but in learning, in teaching, and in inspiring others to rise, to act, and to believe. And so, with hearts bound by shared trials and eyes fixed on a horizon full of possibilities, they stepped forward ready to face what came next, certain that the story they shared could spark courage, hope, and action in the hearts of everyone who would listen. The screen faded to black, but the message lingered. Courage is a choice, hope is a weapon, and together, we can change the world.